when is or when should athletes have it kind of figured to, and again, should is very, very, like, again, every athlete's going to be a little bit different, but when should they have it figured out? Meaning, not their decision, but actively communicating with schools they are genuinely interested in, like the coaches and stuff like that, right? Like if they get to June 15th and now it's June 16th and they haven't sent an email, is it all lost? Is it, hey, it's Labor Day weekend and, we're about to go back to school and I still haven't really had a genuine conversation as a junior in, September? Is it all lost? Is it head of the Charles? And I haven't, right? There's an opportunity to go and like, I always kind of, me personally, I always say like, hey, like that's kind of a good opportunity to meet coaches and stuff like that, right? Being at the same regatta. But your thoughts on that, right? Like when do they actually have it figured out? When is the latest? And even use an example for yourself, like when are you guys really eyeing up most of your recruits in terms of like, hey, like this is what we do, right? Like this is when we think about it. And maybe some schools are, you know, committing, getting juniors to commit, but we're actually a little bit more, summer or stuff like that. What open-ended question? Give your thoughts on that.
Yeah. I don't think there's any one right answer. Like it's hard to put everybody into the same box. Um, to your point, I think every program is a little different timeline wise. Some of your bigger, faster programs are probably going to target juniors pretty quickly after that June 15th date. And kind of like you said, by head of the Charles, if you're someone who is legitimately looking into the top 25 programs in the country, I'd say even top 30 to 35, right? You probably want to start navigating that pretty quickly after June 15th. You want to start having some conversations. You're probably going to get emails. You're going to get some outreach. You probably want to start like getting through that and getting a feel heading into the fall. And there might be visit opportunities in the fall once teams are back on campus. That would be kind of the early timeline. Then I think there's a really, really big group of schools. And I would lump us in there because we have a handful of outliers where we're going to recruit early. But the big portion of our recruiting class, we really start dialing in after head of the Charles. Like it's kind of like we get through all of our official visits in the fall for the class that's ahead of those juniors, the senior class, and then I'm fully switching gears, right? So like I'm spending a little bit of time on juniors leading into the fall, and then I'm fully flipping the switch like after head of the Charles. Like, okay, next group. Like I've kind of figured out, we have our commits and our visits are over and all of that. But then it's kind of a wide open door, right? Basically up until the end of your senior year. And that's where you have to stay like patient to yourself and your own process, because you're going to start seeing on Instagram and all this like, oh, so and so committed, they're verbally committed. Okay, right? Like just because you're not verbally committed by the end of your junior year doesn't mean that it's over. There are a lot of programs that still have spots available, that still have scholarship available. And that's where you have to be diligent to know really what you want, because there's probably a reason why these programs that are getting the early commits didn't reach out to you or didn't offer you yet. Okay. And it doesn't mean anything bad about you. It just means like, okay, I actually might not have fit in with what that program's looking for. So can I pivot and try to find a program that matches more with like my values and goals for myself? Right. And then you have athletes who trickle into the sport during their junior and senior year. Those athletes still get recruited. So you have to remind yourself of that as well. Like if you're an athlete who started rowing in middle school or started rowing in ninth grade and you feel like it's over because you haven't talked to enough coaches by head of the Charles of your junior year, just remember you're going to have teammates probably who join you that next spring or that next fall late, who will go on to row in college. So like you don't want to hit the panic button, but do understand that if you're on that like top end speed wise, like you're going to have to navigate some conversations earlier. But I think the door is really wide open from June 15th for the majority of programs in the country, from June 15th heading into your junior year through spring of your senior year. I mean, we signed our whole class in November. We've been done with the senior class since the fall, but I know athletes who are still committing right now. Like I was just in the launch with one of the Michigan State coaches this past weekend, and she was telling me they just got a big commit that they were waiting for like this past week, and it's April. So, even at a bigger program like that, it's still happening. So, and if it's a place you really want to go, keep advocating for yourself, keep talking to those coaches, until they absolutely tell you, no, we don't have, anything to offer you. So.
And I love one of my favorite things with I love obviously, with what I do and talking with athletes, talking with coaches, or, talking with athletes and parents and helping them navigate this process. One of my roles, one of my responsibilities I feel like I need to do is help kind of shed some light on the fact that kind of bringing reality to them, where it's like, you don't need to hit that panic button. Like you have more time than you think, right? Like you, and a lot of people, again, they see it on social media. Their friends are flexing that they went to, this event or talk to this coach, or now wearing the swag of this team. And it sends the athletes into this, crazy storm of like, hey, I need to do this or I need to do that. And parents, I think even more so, because they're not kind of in the boathouse hearing those conversations and this and that. It's whispered down the lane. They're only hearing it from, their athletes or other parents or their kids and other parents. And one of the things that I always say, or one of the things I always love to bring up to people is because I know countless athletes who were in that kind of panic storm in June, July, and August heading into their junior year. And they didn't even commit to whatever school that they ended up at until June, July, or August of the following year, right? So it's just a real life example. And this is actually in many ways a lot of the athletes, if not the majority, where it's like you're talking about you're now kind of not purposefully, but you're stressing yourself out for 12 months for something that is ultimately going to materialize, way later than you think, right? There's a couple of those athletes who commit as juniors because they're A-level athletes on every roster in America, right? But the majority of them, it's a longer process than they might otherwise think. So it's like, take your time, do your due diligence, have fun with it, right? You don't need to be in a stressful state for 12 months. For the first couple months of it, for the first 4 months, just go tour campuses, email coaches, get some tours at a boathouse, look at race results, follow them on Instagram, right? Send them some update emails. Hey, I'm doing this, this, and this. But you don't have to have it all figured out until, like you said, you're really turning your attention, to those athletes come head of the Charles time. It's kind of when you're flipping the switch. And then even then you're talking about a few months after that before it probably becomes real genuine, kind of meaningful communication. So